Have you ever wondered how people make their thumbnails for their videos? No? Oh. I really hope that they heard that.
Noise.
Well, today I'm going to teach you. So the first things first, you need to get Photoshop CC. Now, that's the one I've got. There are different versions. There's like CS4, CS5, CS6, and the lower the number, so CS4 is like a really old version, CS6 is a newer version, but CC is the newest, I believe. You can get them illegally. Just search like how to get Photoshop CC for free, no virus, or 2017, or whatever you want to do. Just follow the instructions. That's how I did it before I actually bought the Adobe software. So once you've got the Photoshop software downloaded, what you want to do is go to File, New, and then it's 1280 by 720. The background color doesn't have to be transparent, but I always have it transparent. I don't know why I just set it like that. And then that's all you've got. You can save it, you can change the name if you want, but I usually do that midway through, and you just click OK when you've got 1280 720 set. So this is what you'll get, a blank canvas. I just point out I do have the file here already for this tutorial because I already made the video, but my cursor wasn't captured, so you can actually see what I was pointing at. So I'm going to do it all again, which is fun. But the way I usually start it off, so say you've like hit a trick shot, or you're sniping, or maybe it's making a vlog and there's like a funny part where you make a funny face, like I've done quite a few times. You want us to capture that. Say you're editing Vegas. If you go up to the top on Vegas, of like where above the preset is, I'll probably put it on the screen now because I think I still have this. No, I don't. Okay, no, you know what? I'm gonna open Vegas and show you. But say you hit a shot and you want to capture the part in the kill cam when the gun's reloading, or if you hit a clip and you want to capture the part where the gun's kind of going out from aiming, so it's like it's a nice look to it, or like I said, a funny face part and you want to get the right frame. You just get the frame you want in the preview area, which is just over here, and then you just click this button here. So you just click save. So like say I wanted that, this is actually this video, but say you wanted that as your thumbnail, you click save snapshot, save it wherever you want to save it, name it as whatever you want, and then just drag it into Photoshop. But for the tutorial today, I'm actually going to use this image. So if you wanted to use a Google image, like I have used Google images in the past, like I've used like PNG files of the DSR and everything like that. You can either save it as, or you can just copy image. I usually just copy it. Unless it's a PNG file, then you have to save it. And PNG and JPEG, PNG is just without background, so it's got transparent background, and then JPEG is like with a background. So if it was this image and it's saved as a JPEG like this one is, then you can see the white. If it was saved as a PNG, you wouldn't see any background at all. You don't really need to know that, but I'm telling you anyway. So say you have your image here. It's in the canvas. As you can see here, there's the layer. I usually like to rename my layers as I go along, just so that I can keep track of things. So there's a background layer, and then I duplicate it, which is you can either right click and go to duplicate layer, or you can just Control J on your keyboard and then rename that layer gun. So the next thing I do once I've got those two layers, I usually click on the background layer, make sure the background layer is selected, go to filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and then I usually set it between 2.5 and 5. I usually go 2.5, that's the standard. So now if I hide the top layer, as you can see it's blurry, and whatever layer is above on the layer selection panel thing over here is the one that will show. So as you can see, this one is above that, above the blurred one, so you can see it. If I drag it underneath, you'll be able to see the blur one instead of the non-blurred one. But the next thing I'm going to do is click P on my keyboard, or go over here to the pen tool, and this is what it brings up. So you can click anywhere and it will kind of connect it all together. The other thing you might want to know is to undo on this on Photoshop. Obviously there's normal Control Z, but if you keep Control Z, it will just go back to like look, this isn't just me clicking Control Z all the time, it just goes back and forth. So if you want to keep going back, you got to Control Alt Z. But for some reason mine's like glitching and doing this. I have no idea what the hell this is, but Control Alt Z is what keeps going back. So say you do like a loads, and then if you Control Z, all it will do is nothing apparently. Fuck's sake. If I Control Z, all it will do is get rid of the last point and then put it back again. So I've got to Control Alt Z to get rid of it all. Anyway, the next thing you want to do is zoom in, and this is the part where you crop out the gun. So a good zoom in tool, you can use the plus or minus on your keyboard, but what I usually do is just hold Alt and then use the scroll wheel on the mouse, and it zooms in, and again to zoom out. And then whilst I'm zoomed in, if you want to go left and right, rather than just dragging this across, you can hold Control and use the scroll wheel, and it'll go left and right. So I'm just going to speed this up because I'm not going to do it like too perfect or anything like that. I'm just going to kind of go around the gun. So go around the hand, go around the gun, whatever you want to do. I usually go around the hand and the gun, and then leave the background blurred, which you'll see in a minute once we've done this. But literally just go around whatever you want to go around. Say it's a vlog, and just kind of go around your face or whoever's face or whatever you're trying to have as the foreground. That's non-blurry. Just go around it with the pen tool, and I'll see you when I've finished. As the other thing you can do with this pen tool is, if there's a curve like here, rather than going around it with solid lines, if you click on a point further up the curve and click and hold, then you can make these curved lines, and then just kind of just stretch it out until it looks like it's done. And then you've got to hold Control and click on this point here, because if you don't, as you can see, it kind of curves it off that line. So you've got to hold Alt, click on that point, and then you can continue doing straight lines again, or do another curved line. But otherwise, if you don't hold Alt, then it will just continue from off one of the, I don't even know what they're called, the curve marks that come off the key point. But anyway, okay, yeah, carry on. Okay, so once you've finished, you just click on the first key point you made, and as you can see by the mouse, there's like a little circle that pops up, and click there. And if you've got any gaps, like I've got gaps in between the fingers and also up here by the gun, you can just go around it again. It'll start making a new pen line, but don't worry, as you can see, the line is still here. It's just kind of faded. So just go around any gaps because otherwise you'll have like a blurred background, and then the gun will be in the foreground, but so will some of these gaps, and it'll just look a bit odd if you don't get rid of them. And if you do happen to miss any out after you've done the next step I'm going to show you, once I've done all these, then you can easily just go around it with the eraser tool and get rid of them that way instead. But I'm going to see you in a second. Okay, so now I've got these. Just quickly, a fast way to zoom out rather than holding Alt and doing this, you can click Control and click 0, and it will do it for you. So if you right click with the pen tool still selected, and make sure you're on the right layer as well, the gun layer, right click and click create vector mask, and what it will do, it will kind of crop the gun from the background, and now you have the gun non-blurred and the background blurred. And as you can see here on the layer, it has created a little vector mask here, so if you click on that and delete it, it will get rid of the whole layer apparently. But you can remove those and drag it onto other ones. So say you wanted it for some reason the other way around, so the gun blurred and the background not, you can just drag the mask onto the layer, and it's easy peasy. So the next thing I usually do is add effects to the gun layer. So if you right click and go to blending options, or you can double click on the layer itself, and then this will pop up. And what I usually do is add a stroke, so just click on it and this tip will pop up in the checkbox. Change it to just a white color, and change the stroke size up here to 2, just because I don't know why, it's like no difference between 2 and 3, but I do that most of the time anyway. You can just mess around with these yourself. I usually add that and then like a little bit of a drop shadow, so just change the distance around, change the size around and everything. You can just mess around with this. The color overlay obviously does that, but one other effect I usually add is a gradient overlay. And yes, this looks weird, but go up to here where it says blend mode and click that drop down and go to overlay. And now if you can see, the top of the gun is bright and it goes phase and makes it darker, but this looks a bit weird on this, so I'm gonna lower the opacity a bit just so it doesn't look too off. As you can see, that's no gradient overlay, that's normal, and then that's with a gradient overlay. It just kind of, it adds a little bit of a feel to it. But you can mess around with these, adding an inner shadow, a glow, whatever you want. You can change this around, and that's basically all I add for those. I always click this arrow though next to the effects just to make it look cleaner. Otherwise, if you have like loads of different effects, like if you have effects on the text, effects on the background, effects on multiple images that you've cropped out, and don't click the arrow, then it's just all taken up by effects and everything, and it just doesn't look as clean. So at the moment you've got this, you've got a background that's blurry, a foreground that is not blurry, and that has some effects on it. And now once you've added your effects, if you add a stroke or a glow or a drop shadow, then you can see there are some bits that you may have missed. I mean, you may have done it more perfect than me, but obviously like I said, I was rushing. So if you can see here, there's some blue of the There's in blue here for the ocean. And I just want to take the eraser tool, which is E on the keyboard, or clicking this over here. And I'm just going to go around and clean it up a bit. Like if there's any of the background that's showing on the foreground that I don't want to show, then I just kind of go around and erase it, and it's easy peasy lemon squeezy. Yeah, so the next thing I sometimes do this, but I sometimes don't. If you have the gun layer selected in Control T, it will allow you to change the size, rotate it, what have you. And so what I usually do is I rotate it a bit and then make it bigger, and then it just makes it a bit different to having like the actual image. Of course you can see the blurry background as well, but it doesn't stand out too much because obviously it's a smaller version. If you think when you're editing this, yes, you can see over here the guns popping out from the background and the hands popping out here from the background, but it's the only time they see a thumbnail is when it's smaller. When it's smaller on, like, obviously when they select a video and everything, so you can hardly see it, plus there's other stuff going on the screen that you won't even be able to see, and I'm going to be hiding those later on anyway. So the next thing I do after I've done this is add some text. So that's T on your keyboard, or this little T icon over here. Click anywhere on the canvas and type what you want to do. So say we here, it'd be like I can't. And what I usually do, I don't have it on the same text layer, so I usually make multiple text layers just so it's easier to split up. So say I want I can't believe it, I'll have I can't on one, click off, click back on the text layer, and then type believe it. And then I can arrange these however I want to arrange them. And say you wanted them central, what I usually do is if you have these rulers up here, so as you can see up here and to the left here, there are rulers. If you don't have them, it's easy, just click Control R and they'll pop up. But if you drag from the ruler, then you can, as you can see, a line pops up and you can drag this across the canvas. If you get close to the center and like kind of slowly drag it, if you can tell, it kind of snaps to the center, so that's exact central. And you can do the same thing with the top one, drag it down and then wait until it snaps and it's exact central. Otherwise, if for some reason it's not snapping, just go to 640 across and 360 down, because you should have the same dimensions as me. And then if you wanted to make the text central, you just Control T on the I can't part and just line it up central. As you can see, like there's squares, there's like boxes around here to, you know, allow you to stretch out and whatever. And the top and bottom one are the central middle one. So you just kind of line those up with the lines. Do the same thing with believe it, and now your text is centered. So now they're exactly central. And then if you want to hide the blue lines that are going across and down, just Control H and it hides them, and Control H brings them back again. So now my text is centered. I usually space them out, so you don't want them like this touching each other because that doesn't look as good. So I usually get them to touch each other and then kind of click down on that arrow key on your keyboard like 5-10 times. 1 2 3 4 5. Yeah, that looks fine, whatever. So you can have your text like that, just have it centered, or you can just move the I can't across and kind of have it lined up with the believe it like that. But it's whatever you want really, it's obviously your own style. And now before I do anything else, I usually group these. So that's click on one, hold Control, click on the other, and then click Control G. There are a lot of shortcuts and stuff. So rename that to title, and now you've got a group. So I usually have that as my backup, and then I duplicate that. So like we said at the beginning, Control J, or you can right click and duplicate layer. And then and if you want to resize it, make sure you do it now, because as you can see, I'll just show you, make it really small, and then come up and then make it really big, and it stays the same quality. If you rasterize them, which makes it all in one, so at the moment I can edit these two separate layers. If I Control E on the group, I can no longer edit the text, and if I click, it will just go to the title backup instead, or make a new text layer. So make sure you edit the text, make sure it's all spelt right before you rasterize them. And now once it's rasterized, if I make it really small and then make it big again, as you can see, it's now all pixelated. Now, I didn't actually know about this until like a few weeks ago, because I always rearranged it and made sure it was the right size all the time anyway. But apparently that's a thing, so make sure it's the right size before you do anything else. It's okay to make it smaller, it's just don't rasterize it, make it smaller and be like, I want to make it bigger, because otherwise you're going to be upset and get mad and stuff. So with the title selected, I usually add a perspective. So you have to rasterize it to add a perspective. So Control T, right click, perspective, go to the bottom right hand corner or bottom left, whatever really matters, but I always go bottom right. I just drag this out a bit and it kind of just makes it lean towards the viewer. And then I always add like a bit of a curve, and then maybe I put it in the top left corner there, like that. And then the text effects, so I'm subscribed and watch Sesso HQ. If any of you have heard of him, maybe you're watching him instead of my video, which does make more sense. A while ago he had like a text layers pack, which is this one here, and that's what I use for any text effects. I used to use this purple and blue one here and then just change the colors. So I used to use that one and then just kind of go into it, color overlay, and just change the color depending on what color I wanted. But now I'm kind of using more of these clean ones. There's a clean layer styles here, and the first one I just kind of use that one. Just simples. I usually use that just because I feel like it's cleaner. Like the white text is like the standard for vlog and everything, but I just feel like there's no point in having loads of different colors. But you may want it to match the gun, so you can have that color layer and then kind of change the color to the same color as the gun. Otherwise, these are the effects here, kind of just like Bevel and Boss. Yeah, look at the screen. That's what it is. And then there's Inner Glow, White, opacity 93, size 5, range 50. Just have a look on the screen now if you really want it like this. Otherwise, you can also like change the color of this one as well if you feel like it. But yeah, I usually just have it white. There's a gradient, grey to white, and if you want to make your own gradients, you literally just kind of select the color and then it will change it all, and it's really simple. And then finally there's a drop shadow, which is the following. So these are the text effects I use. So I want that position, the gun is perfect and everything like that. Now what I add is I go down here to the new layer, which is this one right here, and make sure this is above everything. I then add this marquee tool with this like kind of green, what am I talking about, this dashed square icon, or you can click M on your keyboard, that's really easy. And then I go to the top left of the canvas and drag it to the bottom right, so then it's got like this checkered all the way around. And then I right click with the marquee tool still selected, make sure you're on the correct layer, go to stroke and add a white stroke of like 5 or 10 or whatever you want to do. I'll do 10 for this example just so I can show you what I mean more. But obviously with the thumbnails, they are, oh, didn't want to do that. With the thumbnails, they are kind of, when you look at a video, obviously it's a white background with the text and then the thumbnail. So if you have a white border, you can kind of make it look like the gun is popping out the thumbnail. So if you want to do that, what I usually do is obviously you have this layer here, which is the outer layer, and then you hold control and click on the pen tooled version of the gun. Don't click on this one, otherwise it will do the whole canvas of what the gun used to be. So you want to click on the one that you clip and masked out, and now it will have a dashed line all the way around. And then if you click on the outer layer and click delete, as you can see now it's kind of above the outer layer, and so it kind of makes it look like it's popping out of the page a bit. So if you look at it from a point of view of text on the YouTube page and then the thumbnail, if you see a white border all the way around, it's just kind of, I can't really explain it, okay, it just looks cool. It'll be on the thumbnail for this video so you can understand what I mean. Well, obviously you don't have to do that. I do sometimes, but I don't do it that often just because sometimes it doesn't look good and sometimes I can't be bothered to do it. But I'm going to do that for this tutorial just so you can kind of see in the thumbnail. So at the moment we've got the outer white layer, we've got the title with effects on it, we've got the gun cropped out and tilted and enlarged a bit so it stands out more, and you've got the blurred background. So a couple of other things that I used to add to the outer. So I used to add a new layer. And then if you go to the paintbrush tool, which is here, I'm pretty sure it's B on the keyboard, and if you hold Alt and right click, drag left and right to change the size, and up and down to change the hardness. And what the hardness is say the hardness is on 100, that's what it looks like. If it's on 0, it's kind of faded, kind of just like a bit of a lighting almost. And that's what I do. So I change the color to whatever I want. I'm gonna have the same color as the gun just because it kind of makes sense. Zoom out a bit, go to the top of the page, again make sure it's on the right layer, and I kind of just add a bit of a fade going around here, just a bit of colors, and maybe on the gun itself down here as well, just kind of add a glow to the gun, and then put that underneath that white one, and then that's basically what you can do. You can mess around with the opacity if you want, but that's what I used to do. And then I always used to add, like, I used to just change the color depending on what color the text was. So say the text was blue, then the glow would be blue, and then if the next video would be green, then I'd change the glow to green. And the fast way to do that is to go down here, and it's just like, I can't remember, I don't actually know what this is to be honest, but it's a circle with a black and white it's adjustment layer, that's what it is. It's a black and white circle, okay? Click that, and then you'll get options like this. And if you want to change the color of something, you click on hue and saturation. Make sure it's clipping mask to that layer, this layer here, the glow layer. Otherwise, if you change the color, it'll change the color of everything and it looks really weird. So if you right click, create clipping mask, and now when you change the colors, it only changes the color of the glow. And that's what I used to do. I used to have a clipping mask on the glow, and then like want the blue text, have this color. If I wanted red text, I'd change it to the red glow. And it's just really easy way of changing things around. And I used to do it with the text as well, rather than just changing the color all the time. I just have hue and saturation, clipping mask onto it, and just change it from that. I'm gonna leave it for pink for this tutorial. And then one other thing I always do, again, add a new layer. Actually, I'm gonna rename that to glow. And this one's going to be renamed to light, because what we're going to do is have the paintbrush tool again, select like the whitest of the white you can do, hold Alt and scroll wheel to zoom out as much as you want. I don't need to zoom out like all the way, otherwise you can't see anything, but zoom out enough so that you can resize this to a very large number. And then when you click up here, so try and resize it to about 1823. You can also right click and just enter in the numbers if you want the perfect one. But what I do is on the light layer selected, go up to the top of the page here and just try and make it central and just click. And now it's kind of got a white glow. And then I always change the opacity to that, which is make sure the light layer is selected, go up here to opacity, and I just kind of change this down to let's just say 30. So if I hide it and then unhide it, you can hardly see a difference, but it just adds like a little bit more of a glow to it. I usually have it actually on like 10, but I feel like this time you won't be able to see it. So right now we've got our outer layers. So we've got the light, which is like the white glow like we just did. We've got the white around it, the white border, and then we've got the pink glow over the gun to make the gun kind of shine a bit, and then above the page as well, just to add a bit more of effect. We've got those. We've got the title with the effects. We've got the gun tilted and enlarged and effects on it to make it stand out, and then the background blurry. I don't do too much more. Usually if you've got a face cam in your video and it is a Call of Duty video or any other gameplay video, then I usually go through the face cam footage and try and find an area where like I make a weird face when I'm raging, say I rage, or if I say something and I laugh, or something funny happens and I laugh or something like that. I take another screenshot of that, like you take a screenshot of your gameplay, and then drag it in here. But otherwise I've got faces as saved as a group actually, and this has just got like a load of faces in, as you know, as you can tell by the name. And usually I just kind of do this sort of thing because I'm weird. I'm not sure if anyone notices I do this, but as you can see there's a weird image of me. I put it underneath the gun, and there I am. And also it's hiding the blurry background as well. Like I said, I would tell you how I do that later on. And then just one of Brandon, and that's also hiding the hand part of the gun, just showing his eyes looking up. I just do that sort of thing, or like I have it in the corner kind of like this. I'm not sure if anyone ever notices those, but I always have those in the thumbnail just to add a bit of difference to the thumbnail, and also kind of change it up a bit rather than it just being the standard gun and text. And then the last thing, this is the very last thing you need to do now. So you've got everything here, but the very last thing I do, I click on the background layer. I go to that adjustments layer we were talking about, that circle with the black and white in it, and I add some of these. So I click on curves, make sure it's above the background just on its own, and then kind of make an S shape. So if you go to where my mouse is and just try to drag this up and then drag this side down, just kind of changes it a bit. So that's it off, that's it on. It kind of brightens it up a bit. And then I'm going to have brightness and contrast, and I'm actually going to make the background darker. So I'm going to make it darker by -35. And then add a contrast of 20. You can mess around with these to make whatever you, obviously just mess around with it and do whatever you want with it if you've got enough time on your hands. And then maybe add a little bit of exposure, which again brightens it, but I don't want to, so I'm not going to do that. So you've just got a curves and a brightness. So this is it without the curves or brightness. This is it with curves. This is it with the brightness. This is it without the curves. And then it kind of just makes it kind of like, I can't really explain it. It just makes it look a bit cleaner. And then what I usually do, one last thing, or two last things, because it's a colorful gun. So I add another brightness onto the whole thing, maybe just to brighten the whole thing up a bit, and then up the contrast slightly. And then because this gun is obviously, it's a colorful gun, if you add an adjustment layer of vibrance, did I say vibrance? I can't remember, I'm losing track of words. If you add an adjustment layer of vibrance above the gun layer and right click and create clipping mask, and then drag the vibrance all the way up, then it kind of, you don't have to do this obviously, but I'm going to save it with vibrance and save it without vibrance so you can see a difference. So without vibrance, obviously it's just normal colors. With vibrance, it kind of makes the colors pop much more, and if you don't clip and mask it, it'll do that to the whole thing. So I usually clip and mask it just to make the gun stand out more. I've said that quite a few times, but if you hit a shot, you gotta want the gun that hit the shot, like you reloading, to stand out more than anything else. So just kind of want to make that pop a bit more. And then I might actually add one more curves onto the whole thing just to kind of even it out. Actually no, I won't do that. I don't actually like the vibrance too much, to be honest. Okay, there we go. So to even it out a bit, I added a vibrance, but I thought it was too bright, so I just added a brightness and contrast and kind of turned it down a bit. And that is everything. So if you want to keep things all in check, I'd group the gun all together, like everything to do with the gun, like the brightness and contrast and everything, add that into one. And then the same thing with the background, have the background in one, and then the faces in one, and then this can go an outer. Like that. So this is what your layers and everything should look like. A backup of your title is also easier as well, because you can just kind of make a copy of this and just change the text inside. You have the background that is blurred and also with a brightness and curves. You have your faces, or you may not have your faces, but that I have my faces. You have the gun folder, which also has brightness and vibrance clipping masked onto it, and also the gun effects, and it tilted and enlarged a bit. You have the title with the effects on, and then you have the outer, which is brightness, the light which is on top, the glow, and then the border. So if you think you're done with this, you just go up to File, Save As for Web. Now you don't have to do this, but this is the way I always do it because this is the way I learned. You can save as JPEG, but it kind of changes the file sizes a bit. So I'll save one as JPEG. So I'll save this as I'll save the two versions of vibrance and no vibrance. So this is vibrance as JPEG, and then you can have it as, I'm gonna have it at the maximum to just make it look good. And then the way I usually do it is save as for web, and then have it as PNG 24 up here. You can actually change this, have it as PNG 24, click save, and then make this vibrance. I'm actually gonna delete the other ones because it's kind of, so this one is vibrance as a PNG, and then all I'm gonna do is just kind of get rid of the vibrance and actually the brightness and contrast as well, and then I'm going to do the exact same thing again, just with no vibrance. So like I explained in the beginning, JPEG is for images that have background and PNG is for images without background, but for this instance I'm saving these as, I usually save my thumbnails as a PNG anyway, even though it has have a background, just because I don't know why, but sometimes it might not be the case for this one, but sometimes the file size is much bigger for JPEG than it is for PNG. So this is the PNG file, and this is the JPEG file, and that's actually not the case. So the PNG file is actually 1 meg, and then the JPEG file isn't even a meg. So this isn't the case for this point. So sometimes you want to save it as PNG, and sometimes you want to save it as JPEG. It depends. So if I was to give you any advice, save it as a JPEG first. So save as, and then select this and select JPEG. And then if the file size is too big, then you can always go back and save as for web and do PNG, and then it may be smaller or maybe bigger, I'm not entirely sure. But big file sizes usually occur when there are loads more effects or loads more layers in a thumbnail. So if I had like loads of guns all around the screen, then the file size may be massive and I wouldn't even be able to upload it. Because remember, there is a file size limit on thumbnails. But otherwise, that is it for this video. If you enjoyed and this helped, hopefully it did. pretty sure I covered most things. But yeah, if this did help, please drop a like and maybe leave a comment to tell me how good a job I did. And you can subscribe if you want, I don't mind, but I would prefer it if you did, because, you know, I'm cool and I'm getting closer to 2k, and changes are happening at 2k as well. I don't know why I'm saying that, because the video is going to be coming up. But anyway, yes, okay, like, comment, subscribe to my vlog channel in the description below, or at the end card. Subscribe to Brandon in the description below. Brandon in the description. Okay, I'm just going to stop now, I'm just rambling.